What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday, Nintendo just started dropping a bunch of announcements on Twitter, which includes a new Switch Lite system we can look forward to next month. And when they showed the color, it seemed to confuse a lot of people and even stir some debate. So we'll take a look at that one. Also, we have an Indies presentation to look forward to here in a couple of hours. I figure we'll give some thoughts and predictions here as to what we can expect. And Sony announced a big PlayStation 5 system update going live today, and it's going to work to alleviate one of the biggest issues with the PS5, that being the limited onboard storage. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Small Life channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Final Fantasy VII Integrade. Now, we know it's coming out June 10th. The PS5 standalone version, when that releases, will be $70. And if you already have the game, specifically before the PlayStation Plus version went up, which is not upgradable, if you had it before that, like say on release day last year, you can upgrade that version to the PS5 version and get some of the extra benefits, which includes faster load times, the advanced haptic feedback being used, and of course that really cool photo mode that they showed off. But if you want to buy the new expansion that will have Yuffie's introduction and a little adventure there, it's actually going to cost $20. And there was some thought that it might be $10 because, oh, 60 and then, $10, that makes sense. That adds up to the $70 mark that Integrate is being charged. But I had mentioned, I think Square is going to work to normalize the $70 price. And in this case, it actually looks like a deal because you'd be spending $80 otherwise, going from the 60 and the 20. And if you just get Integrate, you'll save yourself $10. And like I said, Sony, of course, introduced this $70 price that we're now working towards this generation. I think Square is working to follow suit, and there's just a way to kind of get us used to it. That said, I am looking forward to checking out this new expansion with Yuffie, and it sounds like, according to Square, they're going to work to more or less prioritize Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 and not so much any more DLC, so it doesn't sound like Vincent will get his own DLC to introduce him, but I would expect him to be a part of Final Fantasy VII Remake 2, which will probably be $70. Also, we have a new guest character who was announced for Fortnite, which they've been doing a lot of these crossover characters. We've seen, Kratos, Master Chief, the Mandalorian, Lara Croft, and now we see Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. This is over on the PlayStation blog saying the Horizon Zero Dawn bundle drops into Fortnite's Primal Season on April 15th. They have a card here that shows all of the different items that do come in that bundle there, as well as an emote that apparently is the Heart Ryzen emote, so I guess that's clever there. And they also have a mode that will have Lara Croft and Aloy team up. It's just team up Aloy and Lara. And to go a little further here, it appears that Sony and Epic are getting a bit closer, as it was announced after Epic went and did like a whole raise more capital, really. They had an investment from Sony of another $200 million. This on top of the $250 million that Sony had invested last year. And remember, Epic did show off the Unreal Engine 5 for the first time on the PlayStation 5, and it just seems that there is this budding partnership between Sony and Epic. So look forward, I guess, to Aloy in Fortnite, but we'll also keep an eye on what Sony and Epic have going on. Oh, and we had talked about how when Nier Automata showed up in Game Pass for PC, the version that they had introduced there was significantly better than the Steam version, so much so that there was a lot of chatter and a lot of noise online about that Steam version kind of being left alone completely. Well, it looks like they heard everyone, and we can see this here on Twitter from Nier Series saying an upgraded patch for the Steam version of Nier Automata is currently in development. We'll have more information to share with you at a later date. This is interesting because I guess the version for Game Pass on PC isn't being just ported over to it. Like, they're not just using that patch. They're going to look, I guess, what Q-Lock did, which that version is apparently significantly better than what's on Steam, and just work to introduce their own patch on Steam. At least they're not just leaving alone and moving on to like Nier Replicant and others going forward. They're going to go back and at least work to fix it. Will it be as good as what we see on Game Pass for PC? Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the new Switch Lite system we can look forward to next month. And Nintendo's been doing this a lot. They've just been introducing different color variations as we've gone along for the Switch Lite, and it seems to work. Every time one gets announced, like that Coral Switch Lite, it just sells out, like, all over the place. Very difficult to find them, and then eventually they'll get restocked. Like, I do see Switch Lites much more than the regular Switch at, say, by Walmart or Best Buy, but check this color out here. This was tweeted out by Nintendo. We're gonna do some zoom in shots on this so you could try to get an idea as to what color this is. This seemed to spur quite the debate online, where they say introducing a fresh new blue color, Nintendo Switch Lite launching on May 21st for $200. The blue Switch Lite will release separately on the same day as the hilarious adventure game Miitopia. And looking at this, all right, so this appears to be just like a shade off of the Game Boy Advanced Indigo or the GameCube Indigo color, I guess. It's an interesting looking blue, but I mean, if you look at like the coral or the turquoise, I mean, those are interesting looking colors there also. They're just kind of a shade off of what we expect it to look like. And I think this is the same way. Everyone was looking at this and trying to figure out, wait, is this purple or is this blue? Like, seriously, some people were having a hard time telling. There were polls that were running on Twitter, and for the most part, people seem to be voting more for blue than purple, but I'll say, I think this is the closest we're gonna get to purple, unfortunately, unless they decide to do some sort of anniversary edition for the GameCube, which I guess would be at the end of this year. It's like the 20th anniversary for it, and that would be cool if Nintendo said, hey, we're gonna do this GameCube-themed Switch Lite system. I mean, I have to buy that too, but this is probably the closest we're gonna get for that indigo throwback color, so yeah. I'm gonna have to pick this one up. I don't know if I'm gonna do like a full unboxing video because it's just another Switch Lite to add to the collection here, but I'm sure I'll open it up and we'll get some pictures of it because this, I think, is going to be one of those Switch Lites that I get, and it's going to look different in person. The Mario Switch, the one that they did with the red and blue, that red looked a lot different than I was expecting when I took it out of the box, so I'm thinking this might be the same way. Like, it looks kind of purple here on the screen, but when I get it in person, I might be like, oh, well, yeah, this is obviously blue, which means then there still might be hope for like just an outright purple Switch Lite. We'll see. Next up, let's talk about the big PlayStation 5 system update that we'll be rolling out today. They didn't have a time or anything. I just assume if you keep checking, eventually it'll download an update and then it'll be off and running. There were two big features that were pointed out here, one being more on the social side, the other one being on the hardware side when it comes to your system storage. We'll head over here to the PlayStation blog, where they start off with the PS5 storage expansion and management. It says store PS5 games on compatible external USB drives. With this feature, you can now transfer your PS5 games to USB extended storage from your console's internal storage. It's a great way to extend the storage capabilities of your PS5 console, and you can seamlessly copy your PS5 games back to the console's internal storage when you're ready to play. So the idea here obviously is it's faster to go from an external hard drive to your PS5 rather than try to download, say, Call of Duty Warzone, which could be upwards of 200 gigabytes, something crazy, right? If you move it over your external drive, it's gonna be quite a bit faster, especially if it's like an NVMe or just an SSD drive in general, but you will not be able to play off of that external drive, and it's the same deal with the Series X and the Series S, so we're pretty much used to it. This is certainly a feature that should have been there at launch. I mean, that M.2 slot should have been ready to go at least at launch, and then they just say, hey, we're gonna come up with a list of different NVMe drives, and trust me, before they even got that done, we would have, I'm sure, tested a lot of different drives just across the internet and come up with our own list. So they did mention that M.2 slot because I know many of you are probably wondering about that. They said they're still working on it. So here's hoping that report that we talked about before that said it would be ready over the summer is correct, and we just have to wait a couple more months for that one because I am absolutely ready to put an NVMe drive inside of the PS5 and not have to think as much about that very small storage overall, especially now having to move between an external drive and then back and forth. Yeah, that'll get annoying, but it's better than nothing, which is what we had before. Now, the other feature is actually pretty cool. It has to do with play sharing, but between generations for the PS4 and the PS5. This over at the PlayStation blog, where they say cross-generation share play. PS4 and PS5 players can now share play together while chatting in parties. This means PS5 console users can let their friends on PS4 consoles view their game screen or even try out the PS5 games through share play and vice versa. Options include the ability to share your screen with a friend, pass your controller virtually to a friend, or pass a second controller virtually to play co-op games together. And this is a really cool thing, especially now where, again, a lot of people are at home and not necessarily doing as much couch co-op. The idea of being able to join into a game, even I guess if you don't have it, and you can pick up the second player controller locally, but through the internet, through like this play share, is great because you don't need a PS5 then. You can just use the PS4 and just link up that way and even look at their screen if you want to show them something cool that's going on in your game. And obviously for Sony, this is a way for people who have a PS5 to advertise to people who have a PS4 that they might want to make the jump to the PS5 if they can find it somewhere. That's a whole thing on its own. I get it, but this is more or less setting up things going forward over the next couple of years. Let's say Ratchet and Clank comes out. Maybe that has a co-op mode, right? Where people can join in and they don't have a PS5 or Ratchet and Clank, but using their PS4, they can join in virtually. I like this idea quite a bit. I think it's a great way to at least get people involved if they don't have a PS5 necessarily. A couple of other quick updates here does include disable game chat or adjust players' volume, game update pre-download, customize your game library, screen zoom, and new trophy settings and stat screens. So this is a big update certainly, and I'm still waiting for that M.2 slot, but for the most part here, this is pretty solid overall. So I'll be downloading it and checking it out later today. Next up, let's talk about the indie presentation from Nintendo that will be taking place a couple of hours after this video goes up, and we can see this tweet from Nintendo where they say a new Indie World Showcase arrives on Wednesday, April 14th at 9 a.m. Pacific. That would be noon Eastern. Tune in for a live stream featuring roughly 20 minutes focused on fresh and new indie games coming to Nintendo Switch. So the indie presentations are very hard to predict, right? I mean, there are a few standouts that we're all hoping for. We're crossing our fingers for these. That's like Silksong, obviously. I'm right there with you. I would love to see Silksong not only be shown here, but also get a release date, something that's a bit closer, maybe over the summer. But we've heard from Team Cherry, we'll show it when it's ready. Then, all right, fine. I'm sure it's going to be high quality. Looking forward to that one. The other one I'm really hoping to see here is going to be Sports Story. I loved Golf Story. I've been hoping to get an idea as to when we can get Sports Story on our Switch and start playing it, because it's just such a fun game with Golf Story, and I'm really looking forward to what else they can do here with the follow-up. That, however, not a big development team behind that one, so yeah, it might take a little while there too. But you can also look forward to maybe Axiom Verge 2. It's another possibility. And the big wild card that I would love to see shown here, because we've been hearing a bit about Microsoft and Nintendo doing a bit of work together here and there. There's some teasing by Phil Spencer. Maybe we see Tunic here. That's a game that I think would do tremendously well on the Switch. If you look up any kind of video for that, you'll see what I mean. It has kind of that Zelda isometric sort of look. And after seeing what like Blossom's Tale was able to do, yeah, Tunic would be in good shape, I would say, on the Switch. But looking forward to this one. It's always fun when these indie presentations pop up because you never quite know what you're going to see. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Naughty Dog and Jak and Daxter. This was an interesting one because I did not think this was going to pop up online, but apparently Naughty Dog, the co-president of Naughty Dog, commented on a lot of the fan requests for a series to come back like Jak and Daxter. And we can see this here, this being transcribed by VGC, where they say the co-president of Naughty Dog has made it clear that the studio isn't currently working on a new game in the Jak and Daxter series. This was speaking during a chat with Insomniac's Ted Price as part of the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences Game Maker's Notebook series. We've had a couple of Twitter campaigns where people have been tweeting us every single day saying, I want a new Jak and Daxter, I want a new Jak and Daxter. And they aren't just simple 280 character tweets. They have Photoshop memes and everything they're including it on a daily basis, and the effort has got to be significant. And I hate to break it to them, but we do not have a Jak and Daxter here in development right now, but we still love the characters. And I see what you guys at Insomniac are doing with Ratchet, and that makes me wish that we did. And we would have one in development because there's still a lot of love for Jak and Daxter in the studio. And you know what? I would like to see Naughty Dog, current Naughty Dog, take a shot at Jak and Daxter once again. I do wonder which direction they would go if they had that greenlit. Like if Jim Ryan walked in, or what would it be, Herman Holst walked in and said, all right, we're going to go ahead and try Jak and Daxter in like 2023 or something. We'll get development started now, see what you guys come up with. Would they go with the more, I guess, dark and gritty version of Jak and Daxter, or do you think they'd go back and try something different from what they've been doing with things like Last of Us and say, hey, let's go back to that lighthearted nature of Jak and Daxter, the first one, right? I mean, they talk about, they see what's going on with Ratchet and Clank. It's more lighthearted, right? Something in that regard, I guess, but it also comes back to what Sony is looking for right now. I mean, they have Naughty Dog working on a Last of Us remake to go along, I assume, with the Netflix special, the series that they're doing for Last of Us, and they want the big AAA experiences. And unfortunately, Jak and Daxter would probably fall under the AA experience. I think there is room for something like that if Sony ever changes their mind on their approach to these big time releases. And I kind of hope they do, because seeing the talent that Naughty Dog has now, working on something like Last of Us Remake, it's like, it'd be real cool to see them try something again like Jak and Daxter instead. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, have you bought another Switch because of a special edition or a new color. 88% of you said no, I really don't care about the different editions. 12% of you said yes, I have multiple Switch systems now because of it. I do believe that's one of the reasons Nintendo is releasing several different colors and editions, is because they've said themselves, we want each household to have multiple Switch systems in it. And I think looking down the comments, the big thing that got people to upgrade was that Switch V2. And yeah, I think one of the big ways to get people to upgrade once again is this a new Nintendo Switch, a Switch revision, a Switch Pro, if you want to call it that. I think these different colors are cool. They're interesting for people. Like maybe that blue, you really like that blue. So like, yeah, I'm buying it for that. You like the coral. That could be a way to get people on board of the Switch ecosystem for the first time simply because of the color of the Switch. But I do believe the big upgrades are what would get people to buy another Switch. And I think Nintendo, they understand that. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Paul saying the PS4 issue is very similar to what Xbox and Microsoft did in 2013 with always online DRM, and then Sony made fun of them. Doesn't look too good for Sony now. Well, I remember back in 2013, all right, so leading up to E3, Sony was very smart about this whole situation, because I remember in like late 2012, there were a lot of talks around, as we've seen with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X now, there were a lot of rumors leading up to those systems too, and one of them was about DRM, and that was for both consoles. And we had things like, oh, the PS4 is gonna have 4 gigabytes of RAM on board. That sounded like a lot, but then they showed up and they're like, no, it's 8 gigabytes of GDDR5, and we're not gonna do anything with DRM. And it almost felt like there were some false rumors floated, or Sony really did just about face at the last second and catch Microsoft off guard bad, because you're right, Microsoft looked pretty bad that E3. Go back and watch it. It was quite ugly. But you're right, now we're seeing the PS4's true colors almost, with it actually being tied to servers much more than we originally thought back then. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where's that new Switch Lite color? Were you confused when you first saw it as well? Did you think it was purple or blue before reading through the text Nintendo called it blue? Let me know about that one. Then what about the indie presentation coming up later on today? Leave your best predictions down below. And are you happy to finally be able to do something about your PS5 storage on board, even if it is just moving stuff to the external hard drive for now? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.